Hello my friend, it is your brother Hampton from Hybrid Calisthenics. Today I wanted to make a quick video summarizing how we approach some of the most common goals in fitness. Now there are many different ways in which we can approach these goals, but the most common goals seem to be to increase strength, gain muscle, lose weight or lose fat, increase stamina, and improve mobility. I had to drink out of the cup, otherwise people think there's nothing in the cup. Now, because we are summarizing these in this video, then by definition, we'll have to leave out some details. And I know some people might be miffed if I leave out a detail they feel like is very important, but the purpose of this video isn't to teach everyone everything in a few minutes. I wish I could do that. It's really to help some people get a clearer path to their goal or goals, because there's a lot of new things always emerging, and this is really nice, but it can also be distracting. There's kettlebells, isometrics, calisthenics, resistance bands, CrossFit, some other new thing. And if your friend does it or you see it on social media, then it can be very easy to get distracted like, maybe I should do this. And there's always going to be an argument, on which modality is best and how we should best train. I don't think there will ever really be a consensus because it works differently for different people. However, if we have a clear path and we know how we want to achieve these goals, then we understand that all of these modalities are just tools we can use to help us get there. Again, we can argue about the best way, the fastest way, the safest way to get there, but these are all tools that we can use to help us achieve our goals. Now, moving on to our first goal of increasing strength, getting stronger, we want to repeatedly exert high amounts of force. So we want to lift or hold heavy things and do it often. Now, this really shouldn't come as too big of a surprise. Most very strong people you know probably lift or hold things, whether it be their own body or barbells or dumbbells, relatively often. Some people are just naturally a little bit stronger just through genetics alone. So there aren't any real surprises here, but I want to add two important details that I feel like some people may misunderstand. The first is that to continually get stronger, we need increasing amounts of force. Again, this will come as intuitive to a lot of people. Let's say someone who does the bench press. Over time, their bench press numbers will go up and they will use that to get stronger. However, there seems to be an idea in bodyweight training that this is somehow not true. But just to give a very quick example, if someone were to only do pull-ups, regular pull-ups, and not do anything else, not add weight, not use harder progressions, only do regular pull-ups, then it's highly unlikely they'll ever be able to get to something like a one-arm pull-up. Now, as they practice that pull-up over and over and over again, we want to do things repeatedly, then the pull-up will feel a lot easier for them because they practice it a lot, and they'll also probably be a little bit stronger in their ability to lift like a 5-pound weighted pull-up or a 10-pound weighted pull-up, but something from a regular pull-up to a one-arm pull-up, which is a slightly different movement and also a big difference in force, is too big of a jump to make through increasing reps alone. So as you increase from 10 pull-ups to 20 pull-ups to 30 to 40, you can get pretty high, but I've never seen someone get to one-arm pull-ups using just this method. And that leads pretty naturally into my second point, which is to increase resistance, we can add weight, and it's probably the most common, but there are other ways we can increase resistance. For example, if we're doing pull-ups, once again, there's an example of doing regular pull-ups, and a harder variation would be one-arm pull-ups. Thankfully, there are steps in between, like the archer pull-up or the one-hand pull-up. Now, using these variations to get stronger is really the whole idea of progressive calisthenics, and that's why you can get stronger and progressively overload calisthenics. You can also do things like weighted pull-ups or weighted dips. Now, moving on to our next goal, which is another big one, building muscle. Increasing our muscle mass, getting more muscular. I don't know why I said that the same thing in different ways. In case you were confused by one of them, that might clear it up for you. And if I were to summarize building muscle, I would say we need at least medium resistance, and more importantly, we want to exhaust the muscle. Now, there are many different ways people like to approach this, but the way I think that a lot of people can visualize this is just taking a somewhat difficult exercise for you, it depends on the person, taking a somewhat difficult exercise and going to failure or near failure on those. Now, how much resistance you need, the difficulty of the exercise, depends on who you ask. There are some studies that show relatively low resistance can build muscle just as well as high resistance. However, I'm not here to debate that. In general, to be safe, I would say a medium difficulty exercise. Not your absolute max, but also not something very, very easy. And the reason is you want the force to be great enough to recruit your type 2 muscle fibers, which generally have the most potential for growth. And you want to combine this with a good diet. You want to get all of your nutrients that you need, but especially you want to get enough protein. You hear this a lot in popular culture, and there is a reason for it. If we want to build muscle, we want to be at a protein surplus. And a third very important factor to this is you want to get enough rest. Our muscles will grow and will heal when we rest, so we should rest enough. Now, this is a little bit opposed to strength training because building muscle is going to be draining. It's going to be exhausting because you are, once again, fatiguing the muscle. However, if you want to be pure strength, then you want to exert high levels of force as often as possible, but you can't do that if you're exhausted. This is why pure bodybuilding and pure strength can't really exist together. Most people find a middle path. Okay, moving inside for our next goal, which is a very simple one that nobody ever argues over, which is losing fat and losing weight. So first and foremost, I'll say that your diet and your lifestyle will probably play a much more dominant role in whether or not you lose weight than the specific exercises you do. And I recognize there's some debate and some misunderstandings about what I'm about to say, but in order to lose weight, as far as we know, we have to be in a caloric deficit. Now just hear me out. When we take in food and drink, our body will convert it to energy. And if we use more of that energy than we take in, then we're going to have less energy and we're going to weigh less. That's it. That's all caloric deficit is. It's not unlike having a cup of water and pouring out more than you poured in. It doesn't mean you have to starve yourself. It doesn't mean you have to always feel hungry. It doesn't mean you have to always feel exhausted. It doesn't even mean that you have to track your diet. In fact, I don't really track my diet actively. I do it every once in a while and for like a week or two just so I can get a baseline if I've changed weights, but I don't actively track my diet right now, for example. All it means is that we're putting out more than we're taking in. Everything else that we do, including working out, intermittent fasting, keto, hormone optimization, anything else will adjust one of these two variables. I have heard many arguments against this. I have not yet heard a good one. I'm open to hearing a good one. Again, I'm indifferent about most of this stuff. I can't sell you a caloric deficit. So if you have a good argument, post it below, I'll read it. But I think the issue people have with this is they associate what that is with other things. They think, well, caloric deficit means you have to starve yourself. No, caloric deficit means you have to do cardio. Not necessarily. In fact, some people lose weight without doing cardio at all. And in fact, jogging, while it may be a good exercise, doesn't necessarily really burn that many calories. Again, that kind of goes into more detail than I want to in this summary. I'm trying to keep it relatively short. So once again, I'll summarize by saying your diet and your lifestyle will probably play a much more dominant role in your weight loss than strictly what exact exercises you do. But since we are bringing up fat loss, I want to mention once again that spot reduction with exercise is not currently thought to be possible. So let's say you have some belly fat, let's say you have some chest fat. For the belly fat, you wouldn't necessarily do sit-ups or leg raises to get rid of that belly fat. We lose fat proportionately throughout the body with diet and exercise. Okay, the next common goal is increasing stamina, increasing endurance. People sometimes mean different things when they mention this. Some people mean traditional cardio, basically. So things like running or jumping rope. And really, if you want to get better at that, the best way to do that is just to keep doing it. Now, while they're often thought of as synonymous, endurance exercises are not the only way to train cardio. In fact, if you've ever done a set of heavy squats or just many bodyweight squats, they often leave your heart pounding and you're out of breath. Same with like medium repetition bridges, they really take it out of you. But if you're looking to build muscular endurance, the general consensus is low resistance and very high repetitions. Again, one kind of enables the other. If you choose something with very high resistance, then you won't be able to do as many repetitions of it. But a great example of this is push-ups or sit-ups. People often want to build up more and more of these. Really, as someone who's done that, the best way to do that is just to do it often. You can do several sets in a day. I would add in one rest day a week if at all possible, but you can do that every day. You can take a break when you're sore. Now, while this is pretty popular among athletes and martial artists, among other people, this is not as common a goal because, as many of you have realized, and a lot of people have realized, training strength and muscle will give you some endurance benefit, but the reverse is not as true. For example, if you can do 20 push-ups and you work your way up strength-wise doing several one-arm push-ups, then you can probably do, I don't know, like 50 plus regular push-ups. However, if you only build and don't do anything else 20 push-ups to 50 push-ups, then you may not be able to do a one-arm push-up as well. The same thing applies if you're doing barbell weightlifting. If you start with benching 135 and you're moving your way up to 225, you'll probably be able to come back and bench 135 many more times. But that's just why it's not as common. If you are very interested in this, you can build up a lot of endurance very quickly with low resistance, low medium resistance, and high repetition. And the fifth and final goal we'll talk about today is increasing mobility. Now this one will be the shortest one I discuss, and it might be a little bit more controversial than the other, because I think the best way for us to build mobility is just building strength through length. And the reason I say it's somewhat controversial is because depending on who you ask, people may have differing definitions on mobility and flexibility. But what I mean by building strength through length is you find a movement or a position that you may not be able to do right now, and you scale it back to a level that you can do, and you work your way up. Say a deep squat and working your way up with assisted squats. And building this active mobility will help us move around and in general improve our quality of life. Because while you can be flexible in many different ways, for example, your triceps might be able to stretch like this. But if you're in a push-up position, the bottom part of a push-up position, your triceps are similarly stretched, but do you have the strength within that length to be able to push yourself back up? That's what I mean. Anyway, that's the video for today. I'm trying to keep it relatively short. I may have to trim a lot of parts out, so I apologize if I left out a video that you found to be important or I didn't cover a goal that you wanted me to cover. I'm very open to making a follow-up video or several if needed. And while I try to be somewhat objective talking about them, I also use examples of what I know better. So I use calisthenics as examples for many of them, but you could also apply them to dumbbell training or Pilates. I'm just trying to make this video short and simple. Thank you all so much for watching. You're all wonderful people, and I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful day, my friend.